Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Adrienne of Alice Scraps Wonderland. Today we'll be making a mixed media canvas using these Reneabouquets butterflies, some of her beautiful board printed chipboard, some of her flowers, I just love these, some glitter glass from Renee. I'll also be using a resin frame from Finnabair, some lace from Reneabouquets, and a stencil from Finnabair, as well as other products. I start out by applying a thin layer of white gesso through this stencil. It doesn't matter that there's a little seam in the center. I'll actually be hiding that with the lace later. And then I just clean up the edges a little bit. Once that's dry, I start adding the color. I'm using a bunch of Tim Holtz distress sprays, both regular and oxide, to create a dimensional shadowed look, and I just keep spraying with water to activate them and let it move around on the canvas. Mop it up and then keep layering. I added a little bit of the mica sprays in two colors. I used the brown and the orange you'll see later. And I just keep going in and layering until I'm happy with the look. What I love about adding sprays to something that's been stenciled like this is that the colors really pool in all the nooks and crannies and create that shadow and light play and really highlight the stencil. I'm just going in with a little bit of that Distress Oxide spray and brushing it on the canvas edges. Next, I'm working on the resin piece, and I am applying the new Tim Holtz Foundry Wax in Statue, using a brush so that it gets into all those nooks and crannies. And make sure that you work just a little bit at a time and then heat it, and you'll see that magic happen. The resin may soften a little bit, but that's okay. Just keep it laying flat on your surface and it won't distort the resin piece. Now that the canvas is dry, I'm going in to add just a little bit of shimmery watercolor. I've chosen this copper color to add, and we're going to add some splatters, and then I also paint onto the canvas just to add a little bit more of that shimmer. Once the resin piece is cooled off, I'm going to apply a little bit of the old white wax from Finnabair just to highlight the dimension in this resin piece. We're going to be adding much, just a little bit to distress it and to make those highlights pop. I'm doing the same with a little bit of white impasto paint and dry brushing it over the top of the canvas just to highlight some of those raised edges. Next, I'm cutting the lace to size, and we're going to be covering up that little gap in the stenciling. We'll be using the resin piece with heavy body gel to tack that lace down in place, and I'm placing a generous amount of that heavy body gel on the back of that. I'm placing it down on the center of the canvas and giving it a good press into the canvas to help adhere it to the lace and the canvas. Next is the layering process of flowers and chipboard. I'm starting out with 2 in the center to hold up another larger flower later. And now I'm just kind of placing some of the flowers that I'll be using. These are some Prima flowers. You won't really see too much of these because they'll be holding up the chipboard, but I'm just kind of placing them on the canvas to see where I need to glue things down. These flowers will be holding up the chipboard pieces, so we want to make sure we give them a generous amount of heavy body gel to help hold them in place on top of that resin frame. And I'm just dry fitting the chipboard pieces to make sure that they sit evenly. And we're going to apply a generous amount of heavy body gel to the back of those chipboard pieces where they sit on the flowers to adhere them in place. What's great about heavy body gel is that it has a long work time, but once it's dry, it really holds things in place. And now I'm going to be doing the rest of my flower layering to the sides, creating a diagonal on the canvas. Some of the flowers I cut the stems off, and others I wrap around a paintbrush handle to curl them. I also add a metal charm and tuck it under those flowers. I use the same heavy body gel. And I just clean up the excess once I've placed it on the canvas and adjusted it a little bit. I won't show you the entire process here, but it's basically the same thing on the opposite diagonal corner of adding flowers. I'm adding in additional layers and another charm from Prima. There's that large flower from Reneabouquets, and I place it in the center with a little bit of heavy body gel and press it into those flowers. And I keep adding more flowers and layering them over that little chipboard piece. The charm gets a dose of heavy body gel and tucked under the chipboard. I also add the matching rhinestone leaf branch. And then I also add another charm to the center top of the frame. Now it's time to fill in all of the gaps with some small flowers just to make this really lush and gorgeous. We'll set this canvas aside, but heavy body gel has a long work time, so we're going to be tucking some chipboard pieces in. First, I'm cutting up this Elements panel from Reneabouquets, and we're going to dab some embossing ink on it from Tim Holtz, and I'm using his embossing glaze. And then we'll heat those up, and then I'm adding them with a little bit of Distress Collage Medium Matte. And you can see I'm just tucking them in here and there. There's some places where the chipboard doesn't sit quite evenly on top of the flowers, and that chipboard will help kind of hold that in place more evenly and sturdy. Applying a dry brush of the white impasto paint to the flowers just to add a little bit more texture and dimension. One of those chipboard pieces was a little unsteady, so I just used a little bit of heavy body gel just to adhere it in place really good. Now I'm prepping the butterflies by gently bending those wings and figuring out about where I want to place them on the canvas. I decided they needed a little help to be angled, and so I'm using some really tiny rosebuds from Reneabouquets to angle them and hold them up the way that I want. I use heavy body gel to adhere these butterflies and flowers in place. And that larger one goes right in the center. Next, I'm adding glossy accents to the flowers so that I can apply the glitter glass. I apply a nice heavy dose of that glitter glass, and then I'll let the canvas sit for a while so that that can dry. Once it's dried a bit, I shake off the excess glitter glass onto a piece of scrap paper or mail, and then we'll dump all of that excess right back into the jar so we don't waste any. You can never have too much sparkle, so I'm adding just a few gems from Prima using the collage medium. It's really dry where I live, so having that added adhesive really helps it stay on the canvas longer. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this project. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content and tutorials like this. See you next time.